Good morning, everyone. Welcome in this SUSCON 2023 session where we will see how to make your Kubernetes cluster survive when it has no internet access. I'm Christophe Geoffrey. I work for Nutanix, where we are developing a software platform to run apps and data everywhere. The goal is to allow customers to create hybrid multi-cloud easily and in a cost-effective way. At Nutanix, my job is to work with product manager and engineering inside the cloud native team to propose the best way to deploy Kubernetes on a Nutanix platform. Now, let's start with the presentation. I'm pretty sure everybody have already deployed, launched a container inside his laptop or inside a server. Usually, the first thing you do is to get a container image. You have a command Docker pull. When you launch it, you will see, sometimes that's pretty quick, some line appearing with a downloading state. And at the end, you will have a downloaded image for the container you have just asked. Same if you are using Kubernetes. When you try to create a deployment with a pod, in this case, the Nginx pod, we see the pod is created. But if you look inside the events, you will see also a message like this one, successfully pulled image for the Nginx container. The main idea here is that every time you try to use a container, there is internet in the process because these containers are stored inside a registry, and by default, these registry are hosted on internet. You have plenty of different registry. The most known one is the Docker Hub one. This is the first one we start to use more than 15 years ago. And today there is plenty of different registry where you can find a lot of cool containers. For example, the main known are the one from Amazon, from Google, or from Azure and Red Hat. When you do that today, usually that's pretty simple because internet is everywhere. I'm pretty sure a lot of you have a very efficient internet connection at home or inside his company. And usually when you do that, you are able to pull image pretty quickly. But in enterprise, the life is sometimes different. You see this message a lot of time. Error, image, pull, back off, pulling image. When you try to use Kubernetes in enterprise, this is clearly the kind of error you have pretty often. This is because internet access in your enterprise inside company is not always easy. The goal here is to share with you the many discussions I had with customers, the feedback I have get after experimenting a lot of different customers. We have different process where they give internet access inside the company and the impact it can have on Kubernetes cluster. We can split the situation, the use case in three main ones. The first one, and this is the most common one, the minimal prerequisite, I will say, this is the limited network access. Normally today, every company have security rules in place, and normally when you try to access to internet, there is no direct connection. At least you have some destination filtering, you can have some flow inspection, maybe you are forced to use network proxy to connect directly on internet to implement some user authentication, or maybe you need to install or deploy your Kubernetes cluster inside some specific DMZ zone. This is clearly a common security posture. When you hit this kind of situation, the first things to understand is how it works. The first case is the limited network. If your company have put in place some security rules, you need to identify the external images and components you need to deploy your Kubernetes cluster and of course configure your firewall accordingly. Usually that's part of the documentation. Whatever the tools you are planning to use to deploy Kubernetes, please check inside the documentation. You will see this kind of paragraph with information like firewall requirements, and they will give you some target you need to have access to allow your Kubernetes installer to work. If this is not working, or if you don't have this kind of information, you can also go to your network team and ask the firewall logs, for example, or the network device log, and we will see which connection are denied, and you can check and configure it, open the configuration accordingly. Depending of the tools you are using to deploy Kubernetes, there is some tools you allow you to dynamically get the list of images where needed to install the Kubernetes cluster. For example, with kubeadm, you have the kubeadm config image list where you will have the list of images used by the tools. Same with Cluster API. We have a clusterctl init list images, and you give the name of provider you plan to install, and you will see also the list of images. Based on this information, that's pretty easy to open the specific rules inside your firewall to give access to your Kubernetes cluster and to your install tools. Second issue you can hit is if there is a proxy in place. The goal of the proxy is to block by default connection to internet and to make some filtering. If you want to use it inside a Kubernetes context, you need to first configure this proxy at the runtime level, because the runtime is the process on your host we are pulling the images. Usually, setting the proxy for the runtime, this is just configuring some environment variables. The more common one are HTTP_proxy, HTTPS_proxy, and no proxy if you want to avoid to use the proxy for some specific destination. If you want to use this environment variable with your runtime, let's take the example with Containerd, with the most common runtime today. Usually, Containerd is launched by systemd inside your operating system. So what you need to do is to create an additional file inside the path you are seeing on the first line. And in this file, you need to specify the environment variable you want to set for this specific daemon, in this case, the Containerd daemon. After that, you restart your Containerd after having reloaded the systemctl daemon configuration. And if you check the status of Containerd now, you will see inside the drop-in line, there is an additional config file, http-proxy.conf. This is the file I created initially. We are adding the corresponding environment variables. Once you have configured the runtime to use the proxy, this is not the end, because your runtime is able to pull images. That's one good point. But after that, your apps, if they need to access internet, they are always blocked. So what you need to do once your runtime is correctly configured, you need also to take care of your apps. And proxy has to be configured within the pod if internet access is needed. So globally, for every apps, every pods, we need to access to internet, you need also configure the proxy. Usually the approach is the same. You need to define some environment variables inside the pod configuration. So globally, inside the YAML file, inside the containers session, you need to have some env and define the specific environment variable. Sometimes we need to take care, because depending on the apps, they are not using exactly the same syntax for environment variable. Sometimes HTTP proxy will be lowercase or uppercase. It depends on the apps. And sometimes there will be also some really different method to configure the app. So you need also to check the apps documentation, what is the expected method. But pretty often it will be work with this environment variable, and you need to define it inside the pods. Be careful if the apps need also to contact the Kubernetes cluster internally, for example, to talk with the API server. You need to use the no proxy value to disable proxy for the local domain, the local host, or maybe the Kubernetes API server target. It will depend of your configuration. So you have understood you need to configure this environment variable for every apps. The problem, if you start to have big cluster with plenty of pods, it can be pretty difficult to configure everything one by one. And if on top of that, you are using some controller, some CI/CD tools, or maybe some GitOps approach to automatically configure and deploy pods, it can also improve the complexity to configure each pod one by one. This is why there is tools I give as an advice to many customers. This tool is called Kyverno. Kyverno, this is a policy engine designed for Kubernetes. Kyverno allows to define, by using Kubernetes resource, some policies. And these policies can validate, mutate, generate, and clean up the entire Kubernetes resource. So the goal here is to use a policy, create a policy, and like I say, a policy is a Kubernetes resource, a custom resource. There is no new language to learn, to write them. This is just raw YAML file. And the goal here is to use Kyverno to automatically configure proxy for your apps. So what you can do is to create, once we will have installed Kyverno, and you will see it just before. That's pretty simple, just an Helm chart. And once Kyverno is installed, you just need to create a policy. Let's look this example. This is a cluster policy. So this policy is targeting every namespace. First, we have a matching rule. The idea is to select all pods we are deployed inside the Kubernetes cluster. And after that, we have a mutate rules. And inside this mutate rule, we will say to apply a patch strategic merge. And you will see the patch is to add inside each containers, whatever the name, 3 additional env files. This is the env file to configure your proxy inside the apps. If we want to be a little bit more selective in the way we apply this env file, we can modify the policy to add a context to the matcher. So globally, you can add a selector, and in this case, we will match all pod resources, but only if there is a specific labels like proxy inject. This is an example, but it allows you to choose which pods, which containers will have the env variable for the proxy automatically injected. Let's look the second use case. We talk about enterprise, we have limited network access, but the more serious company implement pretty complex scenario to improve the security. And we can find some isolated network use case where the apps have no internet access. Potentially, you need pretty often use Bastion to have access to the apps. The sessions are recorded just to have proof if there is some issue. This is the highest security posture you can find, and it complexifies also a lot the life with a Kubernetes cluster in this kind of environment. So let's see how we can work with this context. The first things to do when you need to install a Kubernetes cluster inside this kind of isolated network is to search in documentation, because pretty often the install tools have taken this context into account. And if you search for air gap or no internet connection install method, there is plenty of tools we are managing this kind of situation properly. The logic is often the same. The goal is to identify the required containers, images, and artifacts you need to install your Kubernetes cluster. After that, you need to pre-pull these items, store them locally, and configure the installer or the runtime to use these local images or artifacts. The goal here is to be able to let the tools install the Kubernetes cluster without having access directly to internet. If we want to store the containers and artifacts locally, there is one prerequisite which is pretty important. This is to have a local registry. This is an absolute requirement because this is where you will store your container images locally. We are lucky because if we look the CNCF landscape, there is a lot of options. There is different registry available. And for example, on this slide, I give you a screenshot of the CNCF landscape focusing specifically on the containers registry. So there is plenty of choice, and depending of your habits, if you have some preference, you can have choice. But there is some registry we are more interesting than other when we need to work with a complex network scenario. There is some feature who can be really useful in case of this no internet access context. For example, you can search inside the registry documentation to see if the registry is able to provide some automatic replication across registries, or maybe some security and vulnerability analysis, all the stuff like the signature of the content and the validation of the containers, the ability to manage the entire life cycle of the image, or maybe some P2P image distribution feature or some proxy cache feature can be pretty useful if you need to deploy a local registry to manage this kind of limited network scenario. So let's check the second step. Once you have your local registry in place, you can have two situations. If you are lucky and your company give you access or give access to the registry to have a direct connection to internet, it can simplify the stuff a little bit, because what you can do is to put in place some replication feature to directly download images from the public registry and store these images inside your local registry. And inside your local registry, you can implement some security scanning rules and allow the images pool only if the security scan is okay. For example, if there is no high or critical or medium security issue. That's something you can put in place. But sometimes that's a little bit more complex because your local registry don't have access to internet at all. So in this case, we need to use an intermediate machine with some dedicated tool to get image from internet and store them inside the local registry. So globally, this intermediate machine, we will use one or two depending on the security rules, but the goal is to, from one side, pull images from the public registry, and from the other side, once you have pulled the image, store them inside the local registry. If you have a laptop, maybe, and if you have the expected permission, you can do that with one unique computer, or maybe sometimes, you need to use a USB key or some storage device to pass the images from machine 1 to machine 2 before storing them inside the local registry. But in all case, you imagine the idea, you need to make some Docker pull image on one side, export the images, and after that, push it inside the local registry. There is one tool I propose to all my customers who are pretty easy to manage image widely as a batch system. This is Scopeo. Scopeo is a kind of Swiss Army knife when we need to work with images. If you look at something pretty easy to install, you can use your preferred package manager depending on your platform, Linux, Windows, macOS, whatever. And after that, there is some simple command like Scopeo sync, where you can say, I want to take image from this source. And you can do two stuff. You can make a one-step process where Scopeo, with just one command, sync between the public registry and the local registry. Or like inside this example, you can get the images from a public registry, store them inside a directory. You have a bundle, and after that, you take this bundle, and with a second command, you will push this bundle directly to the final local registry. But in all case, it will allow you to win a lot of time when you need to manage a big quantity of images. Once your images are inside the local registry, you need also to learn your runtime or use these images. Usually, the easy case is to modify your app's manifest. So globally, you will take your Kubernetes file, and every time you see a container's image information, you will add, for example, the local registry as a prefix of the images. That's something pretty easy to do, but one more time, if you have plenty of images, plenty of apps, it can become pretty complex. So what you can do, as we have seen in the past, there is some method to help you to simplify. Depending on the way you are installing your apps, for example, if you are using Helm to deploy apps, sometime inside the Helm chart, there is some value to configure to replace which registry will be used by the Helm chart for the deployment. If I take the example of the Kyverno Helm chart, if we look inside the values, there is some settings, and these settings, we can set it at the install time, like here, the image.repository, the init-image.repository, and so on. You can set on the fly during the Helm install and which registry we need to use. The problem, there is no standard method for do that, and every Helm chart maintainer have the choice to do it or not, to propose this kind of feature inside value. And even if they propose it, pretty often the syntax is not the same. So depending of the image, you need to search image by image how to manage that. The second method, we can replicate the method we have used for the proxy configuration inside the limited network access method. If you remember, we have used Kyverno to create some policy to make some modification on the fly when you are deploying YAML file inside your Kubernetes cluster. In this case, you can look this example. We will see this is a new policy. We are always matching every pod. Okay. The mutate in this case is different globally. For every container, we will apply another patch, and this patch will use a regex in this case, and the goal is to modify on the fly the image path. In my case, I will remove everything I have before the first slash inside the image path, and I will put my local registry in place. Depending of your local registry, depending on how and where you are storing your image locally, sometimes you can modify a little bit this rule, but you understood the global ID, use Kyverno to dynamically modify the image path. And you need to do that for the containers, but also for the init containers. Don't forget, this is only one part of the policy. The last method, and maybe the more efficient one, you have the ability to modify your runtime to automatically replace and override registry paths inside the configuration. Let's take the example with Containerd, with the most common runtime used today. You have the ability to check inside the config file of Containerd, and you have the ability to create some additional file to define some registry override. If you look at the example inside the /etcd/containerd/certs.d directory, we have created multiple subdirectories. I have two in my case, a default one and a quay.io one. The default one will be the rules will be used by every registry, and after that you can specify namespace by namespace, so globally registry name by registry name, some different rules. In all cases, you will have multiple host.toml file where you will define what is the final destination when the runtime need to pull some images. The first one, the quay.io example, will just take care of all the pull against the external quay.io and will redirect it inside my local registry with a specific path, in my case, /v2/quay.io. One more time, depending of your local registry, the path can change a little bit, but you understood the idea. The goal is to automatically replace the image path at the runtime level. The next situation we can hit inside some customer scenario, that's not a fully limited or isolated network context, but this is what I call the constrained network. There is plenty of situations where you have limited bandwidth, high latency, some packet loss, or maybe just the cost of traffic is pretty high because you need to pay based on your consumption, or maybe you are using some satellite link. So in this case, you need also to take care how you are working with the network. The good stuff, you can replicate the isolated network approach. This is also a good method for constrained network. For example, install a local registry, put in place some automatic image replication. The goal here is to always have the internet, to always have the needed image when the Docker runtime need to use it. So globally, when your Kubernetes cluster will pull an image, if you have a local registry, even if the internet is present, they will take it directly from the local registry, so it will be more fast. Potentially, if you have multiple pods, we need to use the same image, you will always go to the local image. So that's also a gain of bandwidth, for example, or a gain of quota if you have some limited quota on your bandwidth connection. The drawback with this approach, that's if you need to implement a new apps, and this new apps is not already inside the local registry. For example, the developer inside the main data center of your company have prepared some new images, and you need to deploy it inside this edge constrained remote site. In this case, you will have a delayed launch because you need to pull the image the first time. For example, if you have a sync between the local registry inside the constrained network and the central registry, the first time it need to be pulled from the central registry, and if you have a limited bandwidth, it will cost time. So that's something we can clearly cause issue if we need to quickly deploy apps. Hopefully, there is also some solution to improve this situation. You have the ability to put in place at the runtime level some image streaming feature. There is some project, and one of the more well-known is called the StarGZ project, who have created some external snapshotter. So globally, you are defining an additional component, you are replacing a component inside your runtime. And the idea of this component is to allow the runtime to start containers before the full image has been downloaded locally. The StarGZ project is defining a specific image layout with more information about the content of the image. And the idea is that the runtime is able to use this information to specifically select the content of the image, download the initial part of the image where I need to boot, and after that, all the additional content will be streamed on the fly based on the needs. This stuff is pretty simple to put in place and to configure. There is two main parts. There is a process to install inside every Kubernetes host. And after that, you need to configure your containerd. I give an example on how you need to configure, but that's less than 10 lines to put inside the containerd config file. When and once you have configured your containerd, that's not the end, because you need also to prepare your images. If you take legacy images coming from a classic registry, you will be no benefit to use this external snapshotter, because you need to prepare this image to work with the external snapshotter, with the StarGZ snapshotter. And to be able to do that, you need to rebuild your image. So if you are working with your own image, that's something you can put inside your CI process to add the StarGZ optimization when you build the image. But if you are using existing image, that's sometimes a little bit more complex because you need to download the image and transform it. Hopefully, that's something who can be managed at the registry level. For example, with Arbor, there is a very good extension you can install on top of Arbor, who allow to automatically rebuild and optimize image based on some specific rules. For example, you will say all the image I will put inside this project will be automatically optimized. And what this extension do, every time you put a new image inside the project, they will rebuild it, optimize it, and they will create a second image with the same name but with a different tag, who will be optimized to use with the StartGZ snapshotter. So let's just take an example. In this case, you will see two kubectl deployment command, and one is on a basic image. This is an Nginx image I have inside my local registry. And the second one, the one with the tag -esgz, will be the one optimized. I force some specific constraint on my network when I have made this test. So globally, you will see if you just launch a basic pool on my Nginx image, it will take almost 4 minutes. These same images optimized to be used with the external StartGZ snapshotter will take less than 2 seconds before the container is able to start. Of course, in 2 seconds, we don't do any magic. We don't download the same quantity of data. But the main difference here, the containers are able to start after a few seconds and not waiting 4 minutes that we have pulled the entire content of the image. So there is real advantage to put this kind of approach in place. That's something pretty new, but we are seeing more and more customers using, and specifically, sometimes I meet some customers we are using very big container images, sometimes tens of gigabytes for each images. And in this case, this kind of approach, even with correct network performance, are pretty efficient. So let's try to resume a little bit. We have split the kind of customer situation we can meet in 3 different parts. The limited network is pretty easy to use. The goal is clearly to open the correct network flow, configure the proxy correctly. And we have seen there is also a lot of improvement we can be done, for example, with Kyverno, to automatically configure the Kubernetes content to manage this limited scenario. If you have some more advanced context with isolated network, we have seen put in place some local registry. We can put in place some dynamic replication between the local registry and external registry, or if this is not possible, we need to put in place some 2-step copy process. That's a little bit more manual, but it will be a prerequisite. You can also implement some security scanning on the flow from images were coming from outside. So that's also something pretty important. And after that, we have seen how we can modify the image path of containers inside every apps we need to use it by using manual process, Kyverno policy, or also by just modifying the container runtime with able to replace automatically this images path. I give the example with Containerd, but you have exactly for the OpenShift user the same kind of feature with CRI-O with the runtime used by Red Hat inside OpenShift. Last use case, this is the constrained network, the edge scenario. We are also pretty frequent in some kind of customer when they have a lot of remote site or maybe some shopping place or this kind of stuff. We can replicate a lot of the tips of the isolated network architecture. And you have also seen that there is some tools who allow to implement some images streaming. In this case, it will allow to win a lot of time when we need to manage with low bandwidth network or with very big images. So that's also a pretty good approach. So I will thank you for this presentation. I will finish on some link about the tools or product I have talked during this presentation. I hope you will get a lot of interesting tips and a lot of interesting recipe and solution to be able to manage with this kind of context where internet is not something easy to access or maybe sometimes impossible to access. I wish you a good day, a good SUSCON session, and please come back. Bye.